Have you ever considered how resentment and grudges can become barriers to your spiritual growth? Resentment and grudges are hurdles that many of us face, of course. A lot of us have experienced past traumatic events that can leave deep emotional wounds, wounds that can fester over time and leave a lasting shroud of unresolved anger and bitterness over our lives. This shroud, this veil of resentment, can cast a long shadow and prevents our spiritual progress. In times of perceived injustice, betrayal, or hurt, we may find ourselves clinging to resentment. We often feel justified in our anger, believing wholeheartedly that we're in the right and the other person who wronged us is quite obviously wrong. Such a belief, however, can warp our perceptions and hinder our healing. When we're harboring resentment, we tend to filter information through a lens of negativity. We focus on the details that feed our anger, downplaying or outright ignoring anything that contradicts it. This often creates a distorted memory of the event, a memory fueled by negativity and confirmation bias. We can even become fixated on the perceived injustice done to us, which only serves to fan the flames of our self-righteous anger. This fixation, this obsession, keeps us rooted in the past, and it blinds us to the present, preventing us from seeing the situation from a more objective perspective. Worse yet, dwelling on such negative emotions can leave us emotionally drained, sapping our energy and keeping us from moving forward. Resentment, in essence, is actually a form of judgment. It's a form of comparison that fuels our sense of moral superiority. When we're convinced that we're right and the other person is wrong, it becomes almost impossible to empathize, to see things from their perspective. This lack of empathy makes forgiveness or reconciliation nearly impossible. Resentment and grudges are heavy burdens that block the flow of positive energy in our lives. They keep us stuck in the past, hinder our spiritual progress, and prevent us from experiencing joy in the present moment. But the good news is that instead of clinging to the wrongs of the past, we can learn to release these burdens, which I'm going to cover in our next video. Have you ever considered that resentment is actually a form of judgment and comparison? It's a subtle way of projecting our moral superiority. We often feel fully justified and self-righteous in our anger. There's a certain sweetness in our anger that makes us reluctant to let it go. That's because resentment strengthens the ego's illusion of separateness and control. It solidifies the idea that we're isolated entities defined by our personal experiences. While this division, this me versus them mentality, fuels the fire of resentment, it also creates a vicious cycle. Resentment shores up the ego and solidifies the egoic sense of a separate self, but this keeps us mired in negative emotions that are major obstacles to spiritual progress. In truth, we're not isolated entities defined solely by our personal experiences. We're actually part of an interconnected web of life that contains all beings. Each thread in this tapestry, each person, contributes to the beauty and the complexity of the whole. Yet resentment blinds us to this interconnectedness. It creates an illusion of separation, of me versus them, obscuring the reality that we're all part of a unified whole. This illusion of separation is fueled by the ego. It thrives on the idea of being distinct, of being separate, of being right. Thus the ego often clings to resentments, turning them into stories that define us, stories of being wronged, of being victims. These stories can become parts of our self-identity, but they actually overshadow and obscure our true essence. When we succumb to a me versus them mentality, when we see ourselves as good and others as bad, It solidifies the illusion of a separate self and blocks healing and spiritual progress. Moreover, holding on to anger and resentment's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It creates a lot of stress and negativity that takes a toll on our mental and physical health. Resentments and grudges are diametrically opposed to the virtues that are necessary for spiritual progress. They directly contradict vital qualities such as compassion, empathy, and feelings of goodwill toward others. When we hold on to resentments, we block these virtues from our lives and we miss the opportunity to grow and evolve spiritually. Because resentment reinforces a sense of duality, a separation between us versus them, and keeps us from realizing the interconnectedness of all beings, it keeps us trapped in cycles of negativity and prevents us from experiencing the joy and freedom that are our true birthrights. Overcoming resentment and grudges are crucial for inner peace and spiritual progress. The keys are to be found in forgiveness, empathy, and understanding, all of which are necessary for revealing the essential nature of our true selves. So be sure to watch the next video where we're going to learn about how to release the burdens of resentment and open ourselves up to healing, reconciliation, and genuine spiritual progress. Also, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and tell your friends about us. As always, I appreciate your support, and I'd also like to thank you for being part of my own ongoing journey of self-awareness. Thanks for watching.